So 6-5 will potentially be your homework depending on how far we get to it. So notice the real easy, and guys, if you Google fraction, decimal, percent, fraction, decimal, whatever, you'll get images like this. So notice that it is trying to easily show you how you go from a fraction to a percent to a decimal to a percent, or a percent to a fraction. So back and forth and back, those methods are up there on that first slide. So we didn't finish 6-4 yesterday. Did we get through these 3 box questions?
Yes. We got through 2 of them.
Got through 2 of them? So let's just do it again just for good measure. So if you did not get it written down, I think we did this one because I remember it, because we talked about how we transfer it to the mathematical statement.
We didn't do all of them. Yeah, we did.
So, hey, we're not arguing if we did it or not. We're doing it. So, if I look at 4 is 0.5% of, I want to know who, and if I don't have any volunteers, then I'll call somebody. Who can tell me the words there that translate into math? Obviously the numbers become math because they're numbers. But what words become math? Ashley? Is and of. What does is become? If we talk about what is telling me what mathematically do I replace the is with? Do you know, Ashley? Not division. Elena? Andrew? If I say x is 3, what am I saying? Samantha? Equals.
Yeah.
Is equals. So if that was a struggle for you to remember, you should notate that on your paper. That is equals and equals. Is equals equals. Because x is 5. I'm trying to think of using is without having terrible grammar. Like, this is Phoenix. Ohio is a state. Like, is just means equal. So we have 4 equal to. Were you going to tell us what the of becomes? Because we have to answer one other question before we get to the of. I can't do math when I have the percent sign on it. So I instead have to convert to either the decimal or the fraction. Now you can use either one that you want, but especially working with really small percentages, we should use the decimal value because it's going to be easier to work with. Solomon, where are your notes from yesterday, man?
I'm trying to find them. They're not in my math section. I don't put them in there.
So you were responsible for them, so you should be able to find them. If you can't, I've got extra copies, but it's really bad if we can't keep track of our notes for a day. This is the 2nd day in a row that this has happened.
No, not in a row. I didn't.
Okay, well, maybe not in a row, but we've had this issue.
Thank you.
So what do I do with the percent to be able to do math with it? Yeah.
You drop the percent and move the decimal 2 places to the left.
Yeah, I drop the percent off and I move the decimal 2 places to the left and I fill with zeros anywhere I need to. So when I move this left, I have to fill an extra 0 there. Then the of becomes anyone?
Multiplication.
Multiplication times some value that I don't know. But I'm trying to solve for it.
So that's actually times W.
Right, okay, so times the whole.
Could I do the problem?
This goes into our first step of solving equations. When I want to solve equations, we're trying to isolate the value we don't know. So Ellie, how do I isolate that W?
If it's multiplication, you would divide.
Ah, I see it's attached with multiplication. So the number I want to get rid of, I just divide by that number. Because what is a number divided by itself? 1, and I want to solve for what 1W is. What happens when you divide by a number less than 1? Like 0.005 is less than 1? Yeah.
It gets smaller.
When you divide by less than 1. Think about if you have 4 divided to half a person. What would that whole person get? 8.
Oh, 8, yeah.
When you divide by a tiny number, your value gets bigger, and we get an answer here of, who's got it for me? Anybody, just give it to me. 800.
We already did this one, though.
I heard people say that multiple times, but some people didn't have it written down. Engage with us so you're aware of what we're all doing. So this value would be 800. I only say that with that attitude because that was about the first 4 minutes you were in here, is people arguing whether we did it or not, and I said, I don't care if we already did it, we're doing it again. So you obviously weren't listening.
You said it like 3 times. You did.
Which is frustrating because we're a month into the school year. Honestly.
Would the 0.5% be half?
It's 0.5%.
When
So
would it be half and when would it be 0.5%?
half of something is 50% of it. This is why this whole lesson is about decimals less than 1%, because half of a percent is nowhere close to half of the amount. Think about a pizza. Half of it, or 50% of it, is like that, right? Half of a percent, we first have to think about what is 1%. Well, 1% is 1/100th of the pizza. Then if we want half of that percent, I take only half of that 1% slice. I end up with if I had slices that were half of a percent, I would end up with 200 slices. Because each of them would have to be half of a percent. Does that make a little bit more sense now? There's giant difference. Like this 1/5 of a percent, that doesn't mean it's 1/5 of the quantity. It's 1/5 of 1%. So you first have to think about take the whole set, divide it by 100, and then take 1/5 of that 1%. So what, well, if we don't know it, it's a question mark, is,
Mr. Hudson, we didn't do that one yesterday.
for this one?
No, 15 is blank. Percent of 1,000.
We didn't do the middle one?
Yeah.
No, I didn't do
No,
any of those.
We did the first one and the last one.
We didn't do the first
We didn't do the
We didn't do the first one. The only one we
We
did
only
was
did
the
the
last
last
one.
Yeah, we only did the last one.
Okay,
Let's do them all.
good. Sweet. Let's do them.
Just tell us the answer.
No.
No, then how will we learn?
I mean, we already did this.
You have 3 options right now. All 3 of these we need to convert into a mathematical sentence, like statement, like an equation, and then solve it. Is tells me equals, of tells me multiply. Fill in what we don't know with any variable. If you'd like to use P for part or W for whole, you may. Be careful though, because people get confused when they start using variables for percentages. So this is where it's going to get dangerous. These two are both essentially the same problem. The first one here and then the got it. So if you want to do it on your own, quit looking at the board. If you can't figure out how to do it on your own, I'm going to do this top one here, but the got it you guys are going to do on your own. And actually, because I can identify part times, or part is percent times whole, I know that I'm looking for part here. Because it's 1/4 of 1%. 1/4 of 1%. It's going to be a very, very, very small decimal value. Do you have the answer, Katie?
It's more of a question. So why do you add an extra 2 zeros onto it?
Because any percent value, and this it's always interesting because I never know exactly how deep they cover things in 6th grade.
No, at 6th grade it was. They,
Any percent value, like let's say 5%, is really representing that number over 100. Because all percents, what does cent mean? Like a century. 100 per tells me to divide. So percent really tells me divide by 100 is what the word percent means. So I'm taking that value in front of the percent sign and dividing it by 100. So when I do that with 1/4 of a percent, which 1/4 we know is really 0.25, so I really have 0.25%. So I take 0.25 and divide that by 100 to convert to the decimal form, and that is how we get our 0.0025. That makes sense? Percent tells me divide by 100. So then we might as well get our answer here. If I have 200 times 0.0025, when I multiply by a very small number, I get smaller. What do you get?
Oh. I don't know that.
You should get a smaller quantity. So let's break this up. Actually, we can do this in our heads. What would 1% of 200 be? Well, percent tells me divide by 100, so 1% is 2. A fourth of 2 is a half.
Oh, I got it right. Wait, I got it right then.
So if you can compute 1% very easily by just dividing by 100, then figure out the fraction amount that you're looking for.
I didn't get it.
How so?
How you did the multiplication.
Well, if I do this, I just multiply. But if I want to do it in my head without using the calculator, we can figure out 1% of any number by dividing by 100.
Yeah.
So we took our 200 divided by 100, and we saw that 1% was equal to 2 in this situation. So then a fourth of that is a fourth of this.
I didn't get why you're doing that. Why you're taking the fourth.
Because that's what it's asking me. It's asking me to solve a fourth of the percent. That's not a fourth of the quantity, it's a fourth of a percent. So we're referencing 1% being 1/100th of the set. And then we're actually talking about a fourth of 1%. It's a very tiny amount of the set.
Oh, so instead of looking at it as 0.0025 times 200, we're looking at it as 1% of 1/4 of 1%.
Yeah, well, we can look at it either way. So don't say instead. I'm just providing options. So we can do it just like this, and we'll get that number. If we just grab a calculator, do it the easy way, we get a half. But if I do it the other way, I still get a half. So there's a lot of right ways to get to Florida. There's not one right way to drive there. There's one right destination. There's a lot of ways to get there. Ellie.
I'm confused on how we got 800, and I just can't even hold.
Yeah, it's about to disappear is also why I was pausing. We may not make it beyond this lesson today, and if so, that's fine.
The homework is taken off of the day.
6.5 isn't even up yet, so that wouldn't really make a change. We'll just shift that to, but don't do anything yet. So here, we can identify what we're looking for as either part, percent, or whole. Part is equal to some percent of the whole amount. That's our percent equation that we have. So if we look at this sentence, 4 is 0.5% of 800. The of always comes before the whole amount. So we're looking for the whole amount. But since we have the equation that actually tells me part equals percent times whole, and this is where I'm still debating the order of which we teach things in, because you could really reorder this a bunch of different ways. So this is part, percent, and whole that we have here. Part equals percent, but I convert that to a decimal value. Are you okay with how we do that?
Yeah.
Then times some amount that I don't know. Now, I could actually set up an equation, but I'm getting really tired of kids just wanting to memorize things because that doesn't help you learn. There's an equation that tells me if I'm looking for the whole amount, you find the whole by doing part divided by the decimal percent, the percent value, but as a decimal. So you can't actually use the percent, you have to use the decimal. So if you want to write this down, you can, but I hate when you guys just memorize and apply formulas. I want you thinking through this. So what we're trying to do is solve for this unknown value, and it is currently being multiplied. So I don't want it to be multiplied. So to not have it be multiplied, we divide this, which becomes 1. And the rule with equations is I can do anything I want as long as I do it to both sides. So I have to also divide this side by that same amount, and when we do this division, we get 800. Because actually, this, if you want to go back to last chapter, would be 4 divided by 5 thousandths, because this is in the thousandths place. Then I keep change flip. This becomes 4 times 1,000 over 5, and I get 4,000 over 5, which is 800. Any other questions aside from the got it, which we haven't done yet? Try the got it on your own. Setting up the equation and then solving it. You should not have to manipulate both sides. You should just be able to do the math and solve it. You may use a calculator if you want. I encourage you to try to not. If you are solving this the mathematical way, go ahead and keep going. But I want to show the 1% reference way. So this is asking for 1/5 of 1% is really what this is saying. So the first thing I could think of is, okay, well, what is 1%? And to find 1%, we just divide by 100 and we get, ooh, close. 24.
That's what I meant. That's
Yeah.
why I used to do that.
I know. So, if that's 1%, I can then say what's 1/5 of 1%. And to do that, I just do 1/5 of my 24. So what I really get is that 1/5 of 1% comes out to be 24 over 5, or 4.8 when I convert all the way. Actually, let me show that just to make sure we're good. I would get 4 and 4/5, which when I want to convert this to a decimal, what do I need in the denominator to convert to a decimal? I need a 10 in the denominator. So I double both of these. I get 4 and 8/10, which gives me 4.8. That is the 1% reference way, which if you know that you have a percentage less than 1, some fraction of your 1%, you can mentally calculate your 1% and then just multiply by that fraction.
So you just do 2,400 divided by 100.
Yep, that's how I got my 1%. We just divided by 100. Because percent tells me divide by 100. The other way to do this is set up the mathematical. What the part is 1/5 of a percent actually becomes 0.2% or 0.002. Any questions on how I do this conversion?
How did you get the 2%?
0.2%. 1/5 is 2/10. So what I really set up is 1/5 is equal to 2/10. So 1/5 of a percent is 2/10 of a percent. Cool? Any other questions? So then I grab this value since I can actually do the math with it. And if I get a calculator and plug it in, I get 4.8.
For the master, I'm actually allowed to use calculator.
Yes, but if you want an exemplary, you would need to show your work.
Why do they even have exemplary as a grade? It's basically
To tell your parents that you've gone above and beyond the expectations and that you do not just meet the minimum. If you are a person happy meeting the minimum, that's fine. The world needs a lot of what are the minimum requirement people. What is my minimum wage? I will work a minimum wage job and make the minimum amount of money and live a minimum lifestyle. Or I go above and beyond, I do extra, I don't stay at the minimum, and I won't live a minimum lifestyle.
That's what
I'd rather live an exemplary lifestyle,
What do you think?
but that's just me.
That's why you do my homework to 100%.
What do you think we're living right now? Do you think you're living minimum
I mean, I will always say that I have not mastered teaching. Teachers always are changing what we're doing. We're always adapting, and the kids are always changing. So, I mean, but that's different than asking me about like lifestyle. I've not worked a minimum wage job in probably a decade. I have worked a bunch of jobs. I've worked at Jimmy John's. So when I came over to college, I got a campus job. Then I had another campus job. I gave tours of campus and different stuff. Then I worked at Jimmy John's. Then I worked at Sears. Then I worked at Old Navy. Then I worked at Sears was great because I got commission for selling snow blowers, which snow blowers are. Well, when we do percent problems, these will come back. This is why I'm kind of taking time to tell you guys about this. Yeah, because I was in the lawn and garden section, and it was winter break from college, so we were selling snow blowers instead of lawn mowers. So I would get percent commissions off the snow blowers I sold. Then I realized I could go sell. Well, actually, I didn't think about this. I just kind of got bored at Sears and realized that Macy's paid more. So I went to a job fair at Macy's, and they were like, "Have you ever sold jewelry?" And I was like, no. They said, "Would you?" I said, "Is there commission?" They said, "Yeah, there's good commission." I said, "Yeah, hit me up." So I made an hourly wage I was the only guy that worked in fine jewelry. Really weird. There were like some old ladies that would, make me do things. But they'd be like, "Hey, lift this heavy box." And I pick it up. It's like 2 pounds. I'm like, okay, well, it's not a heavy box. But so I would make my hourly wage of like 9 something. And then I'd make a percent commission. So if I sold a $1,000 bracelet, I'd make a percent of that. Compare that to if I sold a $10 t-shirt and made a percent of that. I'd much rather, and there's problems like that we'll look at as well. So when you get commission jobs, you're getting paid for the work you do, for the things you sell. So if I sat there and said, "I don't really feel like selling things today, I'm just going to sit behind the counter and not talk to anybody," I probably wouldn't really sell much. But by being personable and friendly and talking to people as they walked by, this one gentleman walked up, and this goes into the racism unit that you guys are going to cover. So this black big gentleman walks up, wearing a couple nice chains, and one of the ladies comes in. She says, "Hey, you can take this sale." And I was like jaw on the floor, like how inappropriate was what you just did? Because we had like a rotation of who talks to people and who gets sales. She didn't want to talk to this guy. So first off, she obviously has some issues of her own. But I was like, "All right, hey, how's it going, man?" Chatting him up. And he's looking at some watches for like him. He's just like curious. And he's like, "I really need to," actually I brought up, said, "Valentine's Day is coming up." He said, "Yeah, I know." Huh?
Did he look like Drake?
No, I mean, he just looked like an upstanding gentleman. He was just African American. And apparently she had some racism in her or something. So he's looking at watches, and I remind him Valentine's Day is coming up. He goes, "Oh yeah, I should probably get my wife a bracelet. She's been saying she wants a bracelet." So then we're looking at bracelets. I say, "Hey, there's some really nice earrings to go with that." He goes, "Oh yeah, that'd be great." And I say, "You could just make it a set and do bracelet, earrings, and a necklace." And he's like, "Dude, you're so smart. She's gonna love me. I'm gonna like have a free pass for a long time." So then he's like, "Hey, let's go look at these watches again." I sell the guy bracelet, necklace, and earrings for his wife, and a gold watch for him. Thousands of dollars in sales. So I literally made over $100 in commission off that one sale. And that lady, jaw on the floor, "I can't believe he bought that much." And I said, "No, you can't believe that he has the money to buy that much." And I don't think she understood what I said, but I was essentially telling her, you need to get out of the 50s and realize we are in the 2000s. Everybody's equal. This was just a learning experience, and I hope that she remembers that because she still works there. I've walked back by the counter and talked with him and stuff, but that's so when we start talking about percentages, I've used this mathematical knowledge to make money because in college you need to make as much money as possible. You got to pay for your apartment and clothes and gas and food. And, yeah.
He was so bald.
And we'll talk about these types of questions here when we get deeper into percentages. My first year teaching, I made less money teaching than I had made at Macy's. My first year teaching, I made less money teaching than I had been making at Macy's. Doesn't matter. I'm working a salary job compared to an hourly job. Normally, hourly jobs pay less because salary, you get your year salary regardless of how many hours you work, which for us, we work extra hours because Phoenix is a longer day. But my first year teaching, made just under $40,000. This is all public information. You guys can look it up. If you want to know what we make, you can look it up, or I'll tell you. I'm just over 40,000 now. It's not actually that much when you look at taxes and everything taken out. But when I worked at Macy's, I didn't pay retirement because teachers have to pay into the teacher retirement system. I didn't pay into a union, which teachers are part of a union system. So my first year teaching, I started getting my paychecks. I'm like, what the heck? I made more selling watches and bracelets. But that's life. Because then as you teach more and more years, then you work your way up the pay scale.
Wait, do teachers have a full
I need to call at Macy's and check what my commission actually was. I want to say it was like 6% or something like that. Which if you look at, if I sell $100, I make $6. If I sell $1,000, I make $60. So it's, the more you sell, the more you make.
Yeah. So you
I
did
just-
spend $10,000?
I don't remember. I mean, he spent a lot of money. And so there's different percentages depending on what level of jewelry it was. So there's like the average commission percent. But if we price something up a lot, like say we priced a watch up by 4 times its regular price, I would make a good commission off that. But if we had to drop down the price and put it on sale or something, I wouldn't make as much commission necessarily. Like, because it's based off what you sell it for. So
I heard teachers have something different than a 401k.
it's STRS. It's 401ks are private retirement. Like you invest in it yourself. So I could have a 401k if I wanted to. It's not set up through the district. I'd set it up on my own. And I actually have,
It's
I
through the
think,
district?
no, it's not through the, so like the teacher retirement
No, the
system.
teacher retirement.
Yeah, it's through the state, but it gets taken out from the district, given to the state. That we're going further than we need to. We got to finish up at least this section. So West Virginia, our neighbor. West Virginia has a bunch of water, rivers, lakes, all those things.
Yeah, bad one.
Bodies of water cover 145 square miles. When you think of 145 not being that big of a number, think of square miles is a mile that way, make that a square, and now that's 1 square mile. So square miles are very large. So the state is 24,231 square miles. West Virginia is pretty large. It's pretty terrible to drive through.
Oh, it's horrible.
Horrible to drive through. It's like the state will never end. What percent of West Virginia is covered by water?
A lot.
So if we want to talk about what percent is covered by water, what is our part value?
145.
240.
Well, okay, so you're giving me the numbers already. We want areas that are water compared to the total areas. So we're going to set up 145 over the 24,231. We do not. That's in the units. So actually, thank you for saying that. But this square has to do with the units, not with the number. So that has already been squared. Like that's why. So when it's on, when it's on the unit, it's in the name. When it's on the number, then it would need to be done. So that's the difference between 145 miles squared and 145 squared, and then they give some unit or something. But we would normally not have a unit on this yet if we were still squaring. Or this would be like miles squared. Then we'd have to square the number. But since it's only on the units, we're not unit. Then it would be miles squared. That's how we get to miles squared. When you square a unit, it just becomes squared. So when we do this division, we get that this is going to be some very small number.
How much?
By the way, on the Skittles problem, you can't round up. One problem that a lot of people have been asking me about from the homework. And we always round. I often ask you to round to 3 decimal places because that gets us to enough accuracy. This is not in percent form, though. This is the dangerous part about us using the equation percent equals part divided by whole. That gives us the decimal form of the percent. So to get to percent, we still need to convert by doing what, Jeremiah? Move the decimal 2 places to the right. And now my percent becomes 0.598. And the 4 leaves my 8 alone. So approximately 6/10 of 1% of West Virginia is covered with water.
Is that a lot? That doesn't seem like
Are you
that.
sure how do you do it?
We gotta what? Yeah, how would you do it? The proportionality,
What's that?
the fraction equal to the fraction. Is that what you're talking? Can I see it?
Like,
Yeah, that's proportionate. Yeah.
So,
So
but that'd still be right.
yeah, but it's actually kind of a more complicated process
Then what?
than what we did. I mean, well, it depends on your brain, how your brain likes to work it. So, hey, I need your eyes. The other, hey guys, the other way that we can do this, we know that any percent is that value divided by 100. So I could have done part divided by whole equal to part, we don't know, divided by whole. We could cross multiply this, and that would give me 24,231 times some value equal to 14,500, because if we cross multiply this, and it's right up here for solving proportions. You cross multiply and then we divide. So then we'd have to divide by this 24,231. And Mona said this is why I'm saying it's more complicated, because there's more to do. That would then give us that x is 0.598, and that would already be our percent form since it was over the 100. That would already be giving us the answer in percent. So that's the other option you can take for solving this problem. Yeah.
How old do you have to be to work at Macy's?
I'm not certain. It depends on what you do. If you're going to handle money, I think you have to probably be at least 15.
Yes.
But I doubt they would let anybody in the fine jewelry department that wasn't 18.
Yeah.
I was 21 when I had that job, so I don't know.
You probably
And then I held that until I graduated college.
I hope they let me when I'm 15. I have my life planned out, but I know it's not going to be good exactly.
And so the convenient part about that job was Otterbein back then took a 6-week winter break.
Oh, you won the audit.
So yeah, so we would end at Thanksgiving and not start back up till New Year's, like January.
How good
So-
is Otterbein dorms?
They're all, I mean, it comes and goes. Just go take tours of places. So that break between Thanksgiving and New Year's, all of us went and got jobs. So around here, Polaris, Easton, all the stores, it's a great time to get a job. Try to solve this on your own. Colorado, to do some comparison, Colorado has 371 square miles of water,
Jesus, Colorado's huge.
and its state is 104,100 square miles.
Is the United States like 2
Huh?
miles?
I need a calculator.
So convert to percent first, which you multiply by 100 to convert to percent.
2 miles.
Then go 3 decimal places. So if you want your calculator to do the percent conversion, you just multiply by
The
100,
United.
and then it's going to give you the percent value. Yeah, so you just hit times 100. That's now your percent value, and go 3 decimal places. So round at the 6, but what's the 3 tell you to do? Do you stay 6 or go up? Yep.
What's 100 plus 1,100 divided by 3?
I'm not sure.
Mr. Hudson,
Yo.
so you didn't have to, wait, when you were drilling, did you have to pay taxes and things?
Oh yeah, you still pay taxes.
I'm going to live.
And where you live, so this is an interesting conversation about percents. Where you live and where you work, have you paid 2 separate taxes? I pay taxes for working in Worthington, and I pay taxes for living not in Worthington. But actually, I live technically in Columbus, and that's really good because I pay my Worthington city taxes, but Columbus doesn't have a tax on my paycheck. So if I lived in Dublin, I'd have to pay a Worthington and a Dublin tax. But by living in Columbus, and I live in Dublin schools, but technically it's a Columbus address, I only pay Worthington taxes. So I get a tax break for living in Columbus.
Don't you, if you like live like right close to your school, so you live in like, so say you work.
You lived in Worthington and
you
worked
pay
in
your-
Worthington?
You
have
pay
a tax
yourself
for
pretty
work.
much.
Kind of. Yeah, you get more on your tax return then. But I'm still learning about tax law and everything. Who can talk me through the rest of this process? Sam, we haven't really heard much from you.
Okay, so you do, and now.
Not you, them.
Oh.
You speak up.
So you do 371.
Jeremiah, stop talking. I just shushed you. Sam's talking. So now I have to call you out by name. You're being rude. Even with your hand in front of your mouth, like so hear the words coming out. Stop talking. Sam, the
Okay.
floor is yours.
So you do 371 divided by 104,000.
So we do our division, and I know it's going to be a very small number.
Yeah, it is. So it's.
You can say it in point naming,
Okay,
even though it's
sorry.
technically wrong.
0.003563. Like that.
So when you're writing this one out and you haven't converted yet, you want to go at least 6 digits. And this is what I was back there talking to Ozzy about. Because I want you to round to 3 decimal places in the percent. This is not the percent. This is what my percent is working towards. This is actually what we call our rate, if you'd like to name it. Rate compared to percent. Rate is in the decimal form. Percent uses the percent sign. So what does this become as a percent, Sam?
Oh wait, so I'm supposed to round. It's like 0.4.
So it's 0.3563. But if I want to round to 3 decimal places and look at the 3, it tells my 6 to stay what it is. And I just take it off and put my percent sign.
Does it matter if you put the percent sign in the beginning or in the
Yeah, it needs to go at the end. So, which state has a greater percentage of water coverage? Jeremiah?
Well, Virginia, but also, I have a question. I did the same math as her. I did 371 divided by 1,000. Wait, no.
104.
104,400.
100, not 400.
I know, that's what I said. 104,400.
It's not 400, it's 100. This right here. So you got it? That's where your error was? So, think about this though. Which state has more water?
You can't.
No. Listen to my question. Which state has more water? Acadia? Colorado. But which state is covered more? Acadia. Is West Virginia, because their percentage is about 0.6%, and Colorado's only close to 0.4%. Elena?
When we convert it to a decimal, how come we didn't keep, not decimal, percentage, how come we didn't keep 3?
Just because we rounded. We could have kept it if we wanted to, but because on your homework I asked you guys to round to 3 decimal places, I just did that to get comfortable with it.
is 6 going to be homework?
Yeah.
So no, don't worry about 6.5. We really need to do that lesson first. So just 6.4. I'll shift 6.5 to tomorrow. And yeah. I think Friday we might have a math article to read and then do some writing about it.
Wait, so
Making me write in that
Teacher!
What?
Mr. Hudson, 6.4 is what we're doing tonight, right?
Yeah, I'll extend the deadline for it too.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
First time this year I've ever been ahead in math.
Are we what? I announced